politically, what do left and right traditionally stand for? Well, right, conservative, wants to conserve old values. Left, or progressive, wants to progress and change things. And the left also traditionally wants to help poor people or victimized people, people without power. And the right wants to reward hard work and allow people who've earned power to keep it. This is probably how each side would define it. There's been a big change in the left in the last few decades, or in the last few years. It seems to be accelerating. The left are no longer in favour of white people. The left now demonise the white working class. The left are in favour of foreigners, of immigrants, of people that come from outside the country they represent. They are also in favour of extreme political ideologies, which have been proved not to work comprehensively, like communism, like hard socialism. These things can never work because they don't harness the free market. The free market is the greatest engine destroying poverty that humanity's ever come up with. The free market capitalism has taken literally billions of people out of poverty. Communism has only put people into poverty, into miserable lives, where half the population spying on the other half. They're in gulags. They have no freedom, no democracy, no freedom of speech, and no food. This is where the left is now. So rather than, say, the left, the Labour Party in the UK, being able to bank on working class northern people in England who work in coal mines or who work in factories, traditional industrial jobs, they've abandoned these people. And this was especially seen in the last election, where constituencies that have been Labour for decades went Conservative. Same in the US with Trump. Working class white people are voting for Trump. He's talking about bringing manufacturing back. Now, whether you'd want to do that or not is another question. But he's at least catering to working class people, many of whom are white. The left parties who've gone extreme left, their constituents are now immigrants and communists, extreme leftists. The problem there is that these are two very small groups of people. Communism doesn't work. It just leads to mass death and all the things I just listed. Communism is a failed ideology. If you want to be nice to people, you need free market capitalism. So these people are either lying or they're dumb. I'm not sure which one it is. But this abandonment of the poor by the left in the UK, US, and probably other places, this is a huge move. And it's a really fucking stupid move as well for the left, because immigrants are mostly not in the country yet. No country's made up by a majority of immigrants, although this is why the left has open borders or wants open borders, so they can get as many foreigners into a country as possible, so the foreigners will vote for them. But the problem is, once immigrants have been there for a while, they often stop voting for them. So you need to just open the borders and let as many in as possible. This is a strategy that just in terms of winning elections, seems incredibly fucking stupid. Economically, it's also obviously incredibly stupid, because socialism and communism just don't work. They lead to death and failure. This is just well established. Capitalism is the most moral system. Capitalism is what feeds poor people and brings poor people out of poverty, when coupled with a democracy that looks out for the needs of the people. And when incentives for companies are aligned with the good of the people, which they mostly are in most situations in most developed capitalist countries. But what does this abandonment of the poor, of the working class by the left, what does it mean? It's a huge shift in politics. I'm not sure if most people have really taken this in yet. The left, the Democrats, the Labour, they could come back to white working class voters, but it's going to take a huge shift. Because the people with power in these parties now are either just moronic communists and or self-loathing whites who have had the fuck whites agenda foisted upon them for so long that they just hate themselves. They want to suicide their own race in their own country, and they want to transform their developed, almost perfect, especially compared to any other countries in the world, extremely developed, most comfortable, best societies the world's ever seen, and turn them into shitholes by just opening the gates, having no values, not defending Enlightenment values, etc. These are two horrific groups to have controlling your party. What the left should have is centre-left, sensible people, like, dare I say it, Tony Blair, or even Bill Clinton. For all the problems they had, they weren't insane. They were broadly sensible most of the time. They actually did stand up for white working class people. Although, it was Blair that started the era of just mass immigration into the UK, which is just too much too fast, leads to ghettoisation because most of the people were from one place. You can bring your families in, etc. It was too much. It was unplanned. It was chaotic. The effects of it weren't considered, especially not for the poor existing population of the country. It was primarily that decision that has led to Brexit. Whether that makes any sense or not is an open question. And it was that decision that has led to the Conservative Party being elected by poor working class people outside metropolitan areas or outside London. And it's whereas London is overwhelmingly Labour. This is a reversal. This is very strange. It'll be interesting to see where this leads, but I suspect it will be many, many years out of power if extremists like Bernie Sanders come in for the Democrats, if moronic extremists like Corbyn manage to stay in control of the Labour Party. Because these people believe ideologies that have comprehensively failed repeatedly, can never work, will never work. They would just fuck up the countries they're coming into. What would the US look like in 4 years if Bernie Sanders was president? Trump's done nothing, really, that a normal Republican president wouldn't have done, except he's a bit funnier. He's more entertaining. That's it. He's done nothing controversial. Bernie Sanders would do controversial things. He would fuck the US. It would just be staggering how much he fucks the US and the US economy. But we're not going to see it because he's way too extreme. He's just a communist. He honeymooned in the Soviet Union or something ridiculous like that. You can make this shit up. He's never going to beat Trump. It's impossible. Trump would get the biggest victory of any president for decades, if not longer. But the Democrats have got no one sensible. The centre-left badly needs to retake the Labour Party and the Democrats and maybe other parties across the world, because this is a losing strategy. It's a wrong strategy. It's a highly immoral strategy. It's a strategy against the poor. And it's a strategy against the countries that they're supposed to represent. It's a self-loathing white strategy. It's a strategy that hates the UK. It's a strategy that hates the US. These are great countries that have been extremely successful in the world for good reason. And the things that make them successful should be defended and upheld. And the left needs to relearn this. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes.
The Deviant Developer Podcast. Tap subscribe in any podcast app to never miss an episode. Please leave a review on iTunes and like on YouTube. It's essential to spread the word. To contact me or make a welcome donation, go to thedeviantdeveloper.com. Your support is greatly appreciated.